is the show that takes you inside your favorite teams and your favorite sports. I'm Jarod Lopez here in the ESPN 1080 studios alongside MLB and Rays insider Jason Collete, off surgery, back after only a couple days.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks to lovely Percocet, I'm here and functioning today.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Got David Buckman producing as usual, as long as with the sidekick, Big, the People's running back. Making sure. Are we recording there, Big People's running back? We're good?
We're recording. We're streaming.
We're streaming online.
Yes. We're a little bit of everything.
You can go to ESPN1080.com right now. You can listen to us online live, like and be, baby. As well as, of course, on your favorite car if you are right now driving around in beautiful Orlando, Florida. And, of course, you'll be able to hear us later on YouTube as all other past episodes. And you can reach out to us, can't they, Jason?
Absolutely. You can reach out to us. You want to call in today, 407-482-3776.
Beautiful. That's the phone number. And then, Jason, where can they email you?
They can email us at jcollette@ESPN1080.com. And you?
I can be emailed at elopez@ESPN1080.com. And certainly we suggest your feedback, as we got a lot to get to today. We'll talk about a big baseball game today. The Rays go into Boston. Final game of a 4-game series. David Price against Tim Wakefield. We'll break that game down. We're also going to talk about what the heck happened last night in Las Vegas. Boxing. Always interesting. Floyd Mayweather, Mayweather-Ortiz. An interesting finish, to say the least. And, of course, we got week 2 of the NFL today. The Miami Dolphins are hosting the Houston Texans. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who you can hear right here on ESPN 1080, go to Minnesota. And the Jaguars go into the Jets to highlight some of the NFL stuff. And so just great goodies going on across the board. But, oh, yes, we begin with college football and a big day in the Sunshine State. No doubt about it. As Jason, it was a day where the Sunshine State was the center capital of the college football world, and it was very interesting results.
Oh, yeah, all across the state. Games, some very good ones and some very unfortunate ones. But obviously the spotlights were here with Florida State and Oklahoma game, the Ohio State-Miami game down the other side of the state, Florida-Tennessee, USF having a banner game against FAMU, putting up some monster stats and breaking a lot of records, and then that unfortunate disaster down there in South Miami.
Yeah, it was at least people in Tampa got to see a good band perform, right? I mean,
hey, I got a lot of friends that are USF people were tweeting me and texting me about the marching 100 from FAMU, saying they were extremely impressed by them. So at least that was a good time.
But yeah, that's certainly the situation. As of course the big game, of course, last night, Florida State and Oklahoma. The Sooners pull it out, 23-13. The final score. The Sooners #1 in the nation. A very back and forth game, Jason. It was a defensive game for a while. It really was. As do we have Andrew on? We've got Andrew Melnick, who's usually in studio, live from Tallahassee. And I'm glad he's okay. He's alive. He has not done anything after a tough game. Andrew, welcome.
Yes, hey, Eric, hey, Jason. I am alive, like you said.
That's always a good thing. Give me your thoughts. You were there. What an atmosphere it was. Watching it on television, it was as loud as it's ever been at Doak Campbell Stadium. A tremendous atmosphere. You tell me, what was it like being in person?
Oh, it's as loud as I've ever heard it there, that's for sure. I wasn't really there too much in the 90s during the Dynasty years. But it was the most excited, loud, biggest crowd I've ever seen in that stadium.
Take me through this game. Let's talk about this game now. Obviously, it was more of a defensive struggle than I thought it was. Were you surprised at how both defenses had success in this game?
Not completely. I remember saying last week I actually was more worried about Florida State's offense than their defense, and I think they proved me right. I mean, outside of that first drive, Oklahoma got the ball in the opening kick, drove 80 yards, made it look pretty easy. After that, Florida State's defense, was fantastic. They picked off Landry Jones twice. Oklahoma really didn't have much of a running game, and the defensive line kind of took over the game. And the bad news on the other side is the offense was pretty much pathetic for Florida State. I mean, the line can't block anybody. E.J. Manuel, before he hurt his left shoulder, was having a terrible game, missed a couple open guys, threw a couple interceptions, and then you couldn't really count on Florida State to move the ball up and down the field with Cliff Trickett at quarterback. Even though he showed some promise, has a nice arm, you couldn't expect the redshirt freshman to move the ball up and down against the #1 team in the country.
Who's going to be the starting quarterback moving forward? Do we have a quarterback controversy?
I don't think so. EJ, the diagnosis originally was a separated shoulder. It's his left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder. So we'll see how that goes. But Clint Trickett, I think they do have a capable backup. I mean, I think he's proven that he's not just there because his dad's a coach.
So how do you fix the offense? Of course, Jimbo Fisher said afterwards in the postgame they have to run the football. They have to resolve the offensive line. But this has been a nagging issue here so far through the first 3 games, isn't it? And this is an issue that could how do you fix it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they have 2 NFL tackles in Zebri Sanders and Andrew Dacko, and those guys missed all spring. They were hurt for a lot of fall camp, and neither one of them looked right. I mean, I've never seen Andrew Dacko get blown by the way he was the other day. Same thing with Zebri Sanders. And these are guys who have, gone up against Daquan Bowers-type players and held their own before, so I think something's wrong there. And then the interior of that offensive line, and they're missing Rodney Hudson, Ryan McMahon, a couple of 4-year starters, I think more than anyone could imagine. And they were just, every play up the middle was just absolutely getting blown up. And, we know it's not the backs because we saw those running backs last year have a lot of success.
Yeah, the good news here, next week, Florida State obviously goes to Clemson. It's at Clemson. Death Valley is not what it used to be, but Clemson defense is also not what it used to be. They beat Auburn yesterday, but Auburn's been hanging on by the skin of their teeth every week. But you're looking at a Clemson defense that gave up 19 to Troy, 27 to Wofford, and then 24 yesterday to Auburn. So what are your thoughts about Florida State's the offense, even in the shape that it's in, going to Clemson next week?
Well, they're going to have E.J. Manuel healthy, like I said. I mean, we'll see what's going to happen there. But you're right, Clemson I don't think has close to what they had. I mean, Kevin Steele, Florida State knows him well. He used to be the linebackers coach here. He's an excellent defensive coordinator for Clemson. But, they lost Daquan Bowers, lost another first-round pick at defensive tackle, lost DeAndre McDaniel. So that defense isn't what it used to be. Clemson fans, I guess, have reason for optimism with the offense looking better than I thought. But like you said, Auburn not much in the way of defense this season. I mean, we saw the opener with Utah State. So I think this is an opportunity for Florida State to maybe iron out some of the kinks, and that's something they absolutely have to do because in the grand scheme of things, it's great to be Florida, it's great to be Miami. It would have been nice to upset the #1 team and become an instant national title contender, of course. But if you're talking about just winning that division, getting to the ACC championship and trying to get back to a BCS bowl, Clemson's their biggest, they're standing in their way more than anyone else in that Atlantic division.
Now, Andrew, as much as we focused on the negatives, it was a 13-13 game halfway through the fourth quarter. Oklahoma had a 3rd down. Landry Jones made the big completion to Broyles. So if all the negatives with the turnovers, the bad offensive line play, I think the encouraging thing is if you're Florida State is you're right there in the game against the #1 ranked team in the nation.
Oh, I think you're right. I think there's some positives to take out that, just 2 years ago, this was arguably the worst defense in any BCS conference in the country. And last night they looked like they could wind up being an elite defense this year. I mean, they had their substitution patterns down, unlike last year. They were rotating a ton of guys in and out at defensive tackle. They were switching defensive ends. They let Brandon Jenkins kind of roam free. Austin had a 3-man line, let Brandon Jenkins, their All-American defensive end, kind of hang around the back, choose his places to rush. We even saw him in coverage, which is probably good news for him since he's a projected rushing outside linebacker in the NFL. LaMarcus Joyner is a gigantic upgrade at safety. It's been a long time since Florida State's had any kind of impact player at safety. Outside of that, messed up in coverage by Greg Reed on what was the winning touchdown by Kenny Stills. The corners were pretty good. I mean, that's a defense that I think is definitely going to be the best in the ACC and look like it has a chance to be one of the best in the country.
And it's going to have to carry this team until the offense figures it out, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, in the offense, and we saw the running game really couldn't get going in those first 2 games against weak opponents. They went over 100 yards against Charleston Southern, but we saw James Wilder make a meaningless 41-yard run on the last play. So those fears kind of carried over. And, when you have no offensive line play against a team like Oklahoma, there's trouble. And as you saw, there's going to be, with Miami, Florida, there's some elite defensive lines that they're going to have to face the rest of the season. And they're going to have to show a lot of improvement if they want to have success in games like that.
Let's talk about off the field. So ACC made some other news. Syracuse and Pitt are now officially ACC members, Andrew. Depending on what you read, they might add 2 more teams. Probably will. It's either going to be a Rutgers, Connecticut, maybe a Texas if they go that route. Your thoughts on the ACC making the move, going to Syracuse and Pitt?
Well, Pitt and Syracuse will probably fit right in with those crappy teams in the ACC. After we saw Syracuse get blown out by Southern Cal and Pitt blow a 3-touchdown lead against Iowa. But boy, is it going to make that basketball conference fun to watch. I mean, Pitt and Syracuse, elite basketball teams. You're throwing them in with North Carolina and Duke. And, Pitt's got a decent football program. Syracuse looks like they're heading back in the right direction after going and winning a bowl game last year. I believe they won that game in Yankee Stadium, the Pinstripe Bowl. So it looks like they're going the right direction. And the interesting thing here, I guess, for everyone would be Texas. I think the ACC is obviously not their first choice. They want to keep the Big 12 together. They like to go to the Big 10, the Pac-10. But since most of these ACC schools don't recruit Texas, it's probably the one conference that wouldn't have any problem with Texas keeping their new network and using that. So I think that's the reason the ACC might be in play.
It'll be interesting to watch. I mean, what I thought was curious was, Jamie Dixon was quoted this morning. He had no idea this was coming. Either he's has a really good poker face, or this really came out of nowhere to add these two schools like this. But it's going to be interesting to see how it trickles down, with the other conferences. What's going to happen with the rest of the Big East members? You keep seeing things like West Virginia to the SEC. I don't see any value add there at all. But so we'll see where all this goes. But it definitely kind of kickstarts once again this whole conference realignment thing that looked like it was dead in the water, and all of a sudden, wham! Over the weekend, here comes two big names already moving to another conference.
Yeah, well, I think with all this talk, we've heard Florida State been unhappy in the ACC for years now, thinking that, that the North Carolina schools get preferential treatment. And with Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Florida State, this is 3 of their 4 best football programs, Miami being the 4th, all talking about possibly leaving. Florida State's, they've formed a group here to explore realignment, a committee up in Tallahassee here. So those are all teams. We've heard Virginia Tech in the SEC. We've heard maybe Clemson rumors. So I think the ACC trying to be proactive before their conference gets raided.
Who do you think survives, Big 12 or the Big East?
That one's tough. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards the Big East. I mean, we've heard Iowa State and Baylor potentially reaching out to the Big East. I I know you guys in Orlando at UCF had a rough day yesterday, but that's a team that we've heard about with the Big East. So for me, I think it's funny. The Big 12 makes more money. The Big 12 has been a better conference, but I think the Big East has that opportunity to maybe take a few of these teams, replace them, and they won't have that big-time football conference. But even with losing Pitt and Syracuse, we're talking about Connecticut, Georgetown, teams like that. I think basketball is going to keep them alive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Your quick thoughts on the rest of the state? Florida beats Tennessee. Will Muschamp gets a big win in the SEC in his debut there, in the SEC debut. Defensive line dominated Tennessee. Miami beats Ohio State. Any thoughts on those two games in particular?
Yeah, neither team looked especially great on offense, although Chris Rainey has become the playmaker. This year I think everyone thought he could be when he signed there 5 years ago. I think he's finally become that playmaker. He's made a ton of big plays, and John Brantley not really making big-time plays. Both his touchdowns were a 1-yard touchdown to Trey Burton and then a dump-off that Rainey took for 83 yards. But he's not making mistakes. And, with that defensive line Florida has, they can get things together in that secondary, which it looks like they're starting to. They could wind up being a better team than any of us thought. And Miami, we know there's some talent there. There's a lot of talented players not playing in that first game when you're talking about Marcus Sports and Sean Spence, guys like that, and they still have starting safety Ray Armstrong to get back. Ja'Cory Harris didn't have 4 interceptions this year against Ohio State like he did. Big win for Miami, but I think Ohio State's a bit of a mess, especially at that quarterback position. Mm-hmm. For them, I think I might just go. This is almost a lost season. I know Pickle's trying to keep his job there, but it might make sense to just go Braxton Miller from here on out.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair point. We're speaking with Andrew Melnick, live from Tallahassee, of course, was at the Florida State-Oklahoma game. Did you run into Brian Winnegar, who was also at the game?
I did not. I did not run into our former producer.
Unbelievable.
Brian Winnegar, unfortunately.
Well, Andrew, we're going to let you go and recover. Appreciate you calling in from Tallahassee. Last thought, this is the big week now. Jimbo Fisher has to make sure that Oklahoma doesn't beat FSU twice this week, right?
Yeah, they do, and this is some problems. We saw Kenny Shaw, kind of one of the turning points. It looked like Kenny Shaw had a touchdown that put Florida State up 10-7 in the second quarter. Instead, he gets knocked unconscious, taken to the hospital. Apparently, it's just a concussion, and he's going to be just okay. Kenny Shaw, of course, from Dr. Phillips in Orlando. And he's the third of their top 4 receivers. We saw Burt Reed try and make an effort when Kenny Shaw got hurt. We know Willie Halstead has concussion problems. We're talking about E.J. Manuel being hurt, 3 of the top 4 receivers being hurt. That line having a ton of trouble. Jimbo's got to get those guys ready, and Mark Stoops and that defense is really going to have to carry them this week.
We'll see how they bounce back. Andrew, thank you. Have a safe drive back to Orlando. We'll see you in studio next week.
Yep, be there next week.
Thanks, buddy.
See you.
Thanks.
Jason, last word. Does FSU bounce back?
Yeah, I think they can. Again, with the Clemson, it's going to be a shootout, if anything, because Clemson, they've got the tools. You saw yesterday, and I watched some of that game trying to rest up for the UCF game, and the tools are there. They were able to spread out Auburn and run, but defensively it's just not there. So this is a nice soft landing spot, whichever Florida State quarterback can get in there. As long as the defense does what they did against Oklahoma, I see Florida State beating Clemson next week.
So that's your FSU Oklahoma recap. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go through the rest of the state, including Miami's win over Ohio State, and well, we've dodged it long enough. We have to discuss it. UCF and FIU going down to FIU and losing. Not a pretty sight. We'll talk about it and break it down. What went wrong for UCF? That's next. You're listening to ESPN1080.com Insider Show on ESPN 1080, the team.
Get ready for football. ESPN 1080, the team, is your home for the NFL. Catch the play-by-play right here.
It's thrown backwards. Preston Walker has it. He throws it. It's down on the ground. The Lions are on top of it, and this game is over. The Lions are going to win it 27-20.
It's football, and it's here. Straight from the gridiron to your radio. We've got the NFL here. Orlando's ESPN 1080, the team. There is no stronger radio voice in the state of Florida than Genesis Communications. With the state's most powerful news stations on the West Coast and on the East Coast, Genesis has a unique position of reaching residents and travelers on all major arteries. From Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Naples, Palm Beach, and everywhere in between, Genesis Communications is a powerful tool for any message. Whether it's in advertising, branding, political, or public service campaign, Genesis is the best place for reach and frequency. With the political season now underway, more and more people are making appointments tuning in to listen for news and information programs. Genesis has the powerful position in those large coverage areas. Contact Genesis Communications at 813-281-1040. 813-281-1040 for a powerful political or advertising campaign. Genesis Communications, leading the way to the 2012 election.
How is healthcare reform going to affect you? Nobody knows for sure, and you don't have time to wait. You and your family, you need health insurance, and you need it now. What happens if you get sick? You can't afford that risk. Now you can call for a free quote for low-cost, high-quality health insurance from a name you know and trust. This exclusive health insurance quote for you and your family is free, and the service is outstanding. And they can guarantee your rate will stay the same for 3 years. Yes, your health insurance premium can stay the same for 3 years. Call right now. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. Call now for a free health insurance quote. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. Insurance underwritten by Freedom Life Insurance Company of America and National Foundation Life Insurance Company. Not available in all states.
When the earthquake hit the East Coast, the internet went down. Cell phone service was out. There were power outages up and down the coast, producing no television. But there was one reliable source for survival. Radio. Don't be left out when the next emergency hits. Be prepared. Get radio. Get emergency radios from the Genesis store on this station's website. Radio. The only reliable source for information during an emergency. Get it. Get radio.
Log on to ESPN1080.com. Look for the radio store for 50% off emergency radios. That's ESPN1080.com.
What's on the program for this fine day? Get in the herd with Colin Cowherd.
Well, I'll still listen to the traffic and weather report, but that's it. I have had it with the sports jerk.
Weekdays from 11 to 2, only on ESPN 1080, the team. This is why we love sports.
Back a throw. There's a long pass.
Don't miss a moment. Orlando's ESPN 1080, the team. Don't miss a moment.
Rolling willingly just to try to get in the shot that will finish things in.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's over. It's over.
Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
Unbelievable.
ESPN 1080, the team.
And welcome back to ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080 The Team. Eric Lopez alongside Jason Collete. Buckman working the phones. We thank Andrew Melnick. Of course, as you normally hear, he's in Tallahassee. Was at the FSU-Oklahoma game. We're going to shift our attentions now about 6-7 hours further south. We go down to South Florida. We had two big football games down in South Florida in the same time there, Jason.
Yeah, we absolutely did. And Miami Hurricanes took care of business. It's kind of flipped the script from last year when they went up to Columbus and got beat down handily. They turned it around and did the same thing to Ohio State. I mean, you look at the stats from last night. Ohio State had 35 yards passing. That's pretty bad.
That's an understatement.
That is 4 for 18 for 35 yards passing. Ja'Cory Harris actually looked like a quarterback. Managed the game, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. But, the rushing attack, 240 yards rushing against Ohio State. As Andrew kind of said, I know it's you never use the word rebuilding in Columbus, but my goodness, this just has not gotten off to a good start. They almost lost to Toledo the other day.
27-22.
Almost lost to Toledo, and now they just get handily crushed by Miami. And it is what it is, and good for Miami despite all the stuff in the offseason. They're doing what they're doing, and this is a nice statement game for them.
No, it certainly was. Buckman, you're a South Floridian. Would you have some pride with the fact there was 2 big games back in South Florida?
I think it was kind of cool to see Miami beat Ohio State. It reminded me of a national championship when I was somewhat of a Miami fan back in the day. But I mean, it was kind of 2 games, but they were kind of separated. One's like in Broward, and one's like way down there. So the fan base was separated. It was nice, I think.
It was. As we worked the phone lines, nobody picked up, did they?
No, we actually we're going to go to our Miami expert.
You got a guess.
We're going to go to our Miami expert.
Who do you got?
Sir Carlos Pineda on the line.
From SouthernPigskin.com, Carlos Pineda covers the Miami Hurricanes and the ACC, among others. Joining us live from Miami, the 305 area code. And Carlos, let's talk about the Hurricanes. Big win, a great crowd out there at Sunlight Stadium. And really, I felt took some frustrations out of Ohio State. Your thoughts on the game?
No doubt. It was definitely an electric atmosphere last night at Sun Life. Something that Miami's been missing since they moved out of the Orange Bowl. But, the defense came through. That was the big factor, a factor that Maryland took advantage of this time around. They worked out those kinks, and Al Golden's got to be happy with that defense last night.
Talk about what Lamar Miller was able to do last night. You don't see a lot of running backs put up that kind of number on Ohio State defense.
No, you don't. And Lamar Miller, from the very beginning, that first play, that 54-yard run, which he tripped over himself twice and almost took it to the house. Got to give credit to the offensive line. That offensive line worked hard all week. Those guys during interviews could barely move because of the physicalness of the practice all week, and got to give them credit. They did a lot, especially against that big Ohio State defense, and just the moves. I mean, Brandon Washington, the left tackle, was a big help. You saw Ja'Cory; he wasn't pressured as badly as you would think he would be. So that offensive line was a big factor in that. But Lamar Miller, they gave him the touches that they wanted to give him. They wanted to give him around 25 touches. He got 26. So it was just a great overall running game for the Canes last night.
Your thoughts, Spence returning, I thought made an impact on that defense, showed some leadership, got a hand on a ball there and deflected it, one that led to an interception from Miami. I thought he made a big impact, and it was probably the biggest guy that Miami needed back, even bigger than Ja'Cory Harris, I thought.
I agree with you there. Sean Spence, Coach Golden last night said in the post-game interview that Sean Spence brought that leadership that was lacking in the first game. If you noticed, against Maryland, the defense was all over the place. There was no one specific leader to tell them where to go. Sean Spence brought that, and you can't forget about Marcus Forston. He was another factor in Adewale Ajomo. That line, those two guys alone brought a lot more pressure than Miami brought against the Maryland offense last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. So, but yeah, no, Sean Spence, that was the impact player that Miami needed on defense, and you couldn't have asked for those guys to come back at a better time. As you saw, the Ohio State offense, aside from the running game, the passing game, they were just flustered, and the receivers kept dropping passes, so it didn't help them at all in that cause.
Now, we looking at the stats last night. Miami was 9 for 15 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. Ja'Cory Harris 16 for 23 for 123 yards. I mean, obviously Harris is not the type of guy that is going to go out and win games on his own. But talk about how he was as a game manager yesterday.
The first 2 drives were incredible. He was finding his receivers, Alan Hearns, who comes out of nowhere as a sophomore. He just steps up, and now he's the go-to guy, the playmaker on that receiving core. But Ja'Cory, those 2 interceptions really turned that game around. Miami had all the momentum, winning 14-0, and then you had signs of the old Ja'Cory, and then the Ja'Cory against Ohio State, that those 4 interceptions gave Ohio State 20 points last year. You felt it in the stadium, especially in the press box, just the momentum almost swaying over to Ohio State, even as bad as they played. Just one play could have turned this game around in Ohio State's favor, and luckily those turnovers didn't hurt Miami. But as you noticed in the game, if you watch it, just a conservative offense. I don't think the coaching staff had too much faith in him as far as throwing the ball, and they just went running the ball most of the second quarter and most of the second half just to try and take the time off the clock. But I don't think they wanted Ja'Cory to throw anymore, just because he could have thrown an interception that could have hurt the offense. And the offense wasn't scoring much until that final play in the game when Mike James scored from a yard out. But other than that, they just wanted to run a conservative offense at least most of that second half.
We're speaking with Carlos Pineda here. It's from SouthernPigskin.com, live in South Florida. Covered the Miami-Ohio State game last night. Covers the Hurricanes and the ACC. And that's a good segue, Carlos. I want your thoughts on the big news this morning. And it broke yesterday, but it's kind of been confirmed this morning. Syracuse and Pittsburgh, official members of the ACC. The ACC is now at 14. Your thoughts on those 2 memberships, and do you think they're going to 16?
I guess at this point, why not? I mean, you're already at 14. 12 was always a good number because you got to, you played 8 games in the conference. Now, I don't know how they're going to do all this with all these pods that they're going to do, but I mean, it's a good move. Why not just name it the old Big East at this point, right?
That's a nice little chunk there. I mean, it's going to be big for basketball, and I think John Swofford's being proactive. He doesn't want to be left out in the table and get a gun to their head. Like right now, the Big 12 and the Big East are in real danger of not surviving.
I agree with you. It's about time. I mean, listen, the Big East, they had a lot of time to make these moves that they needed to make. And then, again, they were not proactive like they were back in 2003 when the ACC took Miami, Virginia Tech, and then a year later Boston College. And that's what this game is all about. You saw the Pac-12. They were proactive. The Big Ten was proactive. And the ACC, they knew that if they didn't make a move, they were going to get picked off too. Eric, Florida State was considering making moves as well. So it was a good move by the ACC, and who knows what the next 2 teams are. Maybe that motivates Texas to come over here, or from what I'm hearing, Rutgers as another candidate to make it 16. So you got to give John Swofford credit. You got to make those moves, or else the ACC would have been next in line to get picked off, in my opinion.
I've heard from sources it's Rutgers, Connecticut, Texas. 2 of those 3 end up in the ACC. Obviously, Texas, it's theirs if they want it. Texas will meet with Oklahoma on Monday to figure out what they want to do. But is that what you're hearing too? Texas, Rutgers, and then if Texas doesn't do it, Connecticut?
Yes. I read Connecticut as well. I forgot to mention them. But yes, those are the 3 teams I'm hearing. And you gotta, if you're Texas, I think that's your best move right now. The Big 12 is not looking good in the Big East. So much for TCU to move to the Big East, no?
Yeah, that's really looking really good right about now.
They might want to unpack those boxes.
Yeah, they might want to get some lawyers and get out of that contract if they can, which is not easy from what I understand. All right, last question before we let you go, Carlos. Kansas State is on the horizon for Miami now. How do you avoid a letdown? And you build this momentum now. Build a positive win. You got great fan support. Can you keep it going against Kansas State team that's kind of some struggles this year?
Oh, I think you can. Obviously, like you said, I feel like that's one of those quote-unquote trap games or letdowns, which is a better word, when after beating a good, solid name like Ohio State. You just got to stay focused, as Golden has been saying all off season. You got to focus on 2 yards in an acre there. Just got to focus on that ball. And Miami defense, you saw them step up. They just got to keep that up. Offense, work with Jacory, make him realize that you don't need to force the ball in there. Especially those two interceptions. He waited so long, and he underthrew both times. So you can't let the offensive mistakes lead the points on the other side. So Miami just needs to stick with the game plan that they had against Ohio State on defense and on offense. Give the ball to Lamar Miller, and just don't let Jacory force it in there. That's the two main concerns there.
That's Carlos Pineda from SouthernPigskin.com. Where can they find you on Twitter, Carlos?
Carlos F. Pineda.
Beautiful. Well, we thank you for joining us, and enjoy South Florida for me there, all right?
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
you
Carlos.
have a great day.
That's Carlos Pineda of Southern Pigskin enjoying the Miami big win. Now, a half hour away from that Sunlight Stadium, UCF falls to FIU. Jason, 17-10. We were supposed to have Carson Engel on to break it down, but Buckman, he kind of like UCF offensive line no-showed, right?
You know, the thing is I just called him.
Yeah.
The phone was off. It went right to voicemail.
Oh,
so he's probably still in.
Probably threw it in the ocean.
Yeah, he probably did. He probably took his phone and threw it.
Yeah.
Frankly, I can't blame him.
A lot of people did, Jason. Let's get into it. What the heck happened?
All right, last week, O'Leary said he always talks to the team about winning 2 or 3 phases of the game, offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah.
Well, last night they went 0 for 3. They didn't win any phase of that game. And it was disappointing. I always like to look at the stats. UCF wins the total yards, wins the time of possession, had the better third down conversion efficiency, and yet they lost that game. And there's 2 big things to look at. 10 penalties for 71 yards, and this is a team that I don't think they've had 10 penalties in the last 4 games. So when you look at, they were killing themselves, so they ran out of toes to shoot off. And then, the inexplicable turnover by Godfrey, when he could have just tucked that ball away. And then Josh Robinson apparently pulling a Leon Lett. They must be related somehow, because there is absolutely no excuse to try to field a bouncing punt on the 5-yard line. And UCF pretty much beat UCF last night. No, I'm not trying to discredit FIU. I thought they played a phenomenal game on defense, a lot of pressure. UCF did not adjust, but they shot every toe off possible, and they had nothing left to stand on at the end of the game.
How concerned are we about the passing game? It was pretty bad. Godfrey had no time to throw the ball. Chris Martin was gotten beat all night.
Turnstile.
FIU clearly was determined, we're going to blitz because we're confident that your receivers can't beat our corners and you can't throw on us. We're not going to get beat by the running game. And they made those adjustments in the second half. There was no plays down the field, and I saw for most of the game they went pretty much too wide, very conservative.
Yeah, very much so. And they were, some of that pressure, obviously, FIU was blitzing a lot. And what puzzled me, and a lot of the guys who were watching the game with me at the Moat yesterday, where were the screen passes? Where were anything out to the flats, anything? Because FIU, realizing that the line was having the trouble out there, basically kept blitzing, forcing, and that's why UCF had nothing downfield, but they didn't even try to go out to the flats, not try to do anything.
Yeah.
No draws, really nothing. The running attack was nowhere outside of that one long 10-minute drive, but after that, the momentum, once Godfrey made that critical turnover there right before halftime, that was a momentum changer. If UCF goes into halftime, 7-0, 10-0, big difference. But then FIU had all the momentum coming out of the half. In fact, going into that half, UCF had to. FIU got to kick the ball from the 50 because 2 UCF blockers took an FIU guy 10 yards into the bench and flipped him over the bench. They had a 15-yard personal foul, so UCF gets the ball coming out of halftime and has to start from their own 20 because they can't take advantage of McDuffie kickoff because they're he's fielding the ball 10 rows back in the stands.
Did UCF take FIU lightly? Were they too nonchalant, too cool for school?
I don't think that was a problem. I just think this was a lack of focus for whatever reason. I mean, again, if you watch UCF football, they don't make this many mistakes all at once. Even when they lost, the loss to Southern Miss last year at home was not this bad. I mean, they made turnovers and whatnot, but that was USM playing some incredible defense last night. I mean, the two critical mistakes were both self-inflicted. There was no reason for Godfrey to try to do a Derek Jeter and jump up and throw the ball when 3 guys are in his face like that, and there's absolutely no reason for Josh Robinson to field that ball. There's no reason.
All right, so how do we fix this? What do they have to do? They got a short week. They go to BYU, who got the holy war beaten out of them by Utah.
Yeah,
54-10. So that game all of a sudden is not looking so exciting if you're ESPN, but nonetheless, if you're UCF, what do you do?
They're going to find something for the passing game. The passing game, I mean, we have 0 passing touchdowns now coming into, 3 games, 0 passing touchdowns. So there's a problem. Something's got to develop. I mean, A.J. Guyton was an invisible man last night. I don't think he was even targeted once. McDuffie had a couple of targets. Nisley had a couple of nice targets, but that was it. J.J. Wharton didn't see anything. Nobody else saw the ball. I mean, yeah, it was a matter of the time, but even out to the sides, we saw 2 screenplays all night. Passing game has to become a factor. Last night, FIU run blitz, shut down the running game, and forced UCF to try to throw, and they couldn't. They gave the nice recipe, BYU. There you go. That's what you have to do to beat UCF. Have at it. Defensively, I thought UCF's defense, for the most part, played a really good game. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton missing a chunk of the game helped. He dropped the touchdown and pulled his hamstring on the same play and was able to come back. And not 100%, but he's actually able to come back and still be a factor in that game. But defensively, doing what they did, FIU had a really interesting scheme last night of a lot of chop blocking. They were just diving at the legs every single play, and that's why UCF wasn't able to get in there and get to Wesley Carroll for any kind of pressure. I think Victor Gray had the 1 sack of the game because they were doing a lot of cut block right there down at the line, and a lot of it was 3-step drop pass and get rid of the ball to negate that UCF pass rush.
That certainly was an ugly performance for UCF. They are 2-1. They go from a chance to go into the top 25 to maybe the 6th best team in the state.
Well, I mean, and also we can't all put on some of the players. There were some very questionable coaching decisions. I mean, O'Leary sending out Couture to kick a 52-yard field goal. I don't know where that's coming from because I can't think. That's a perfect sound effect. I'm trying to think of the last guy. Maybe Matt Prater might have been the last guy to hit a 50-yard field goal for this program.
No, he didn't hit it at UCF. He didn't.
But it's. When he hits him out, you're like, what are you doing? I mean, what are the odds? It was fourth and less than 2. The odds of converting that are greater than any UCF kicker making that field goal, and then punting with 5 minutes left in the game, down 10. Again, the play calling.
What about the nonchalant of the offense? You got the ball in FIU territory. You get the ball back after a punt. You're down 10 with about 5 minutes and change or so, and you're going nonchalant. And by the time you kick a field goal, there's about a minute and a half to go. Granted, there was some shaky clock management from the Sun Belt officials, which is another story.
Yeah.
Why do you agree to play? If you're going to agree to play at FIU, why do you agree to play them with their refs?
I'm glad you brought that up. But, I mean, there were 10 penalties. 4 of them were false starts. 2 of them were offside. So, again, even though it was Sun Belt officials, 6 of those 10 penalties were completely self-inflicted.
But there was some interesting
But I agree. It was just odd to see that. The way to play, when you see the UCF team that coming into that game had won 11 of their last 12 and had done so in pretty much a dominating fashion. I guess this is the first time they've had to face adversity in quite a few games and just didn't know how to adjust to it. It was just one of these things where it looked like, again, I used it earlier, the script was flipped. FIU was dominating that game in the second half, and UCF just didn't matter what they tried, they couldn't adjust to it.
FIU, you mentioned this off the air, they got a chance to win 10 or plus games here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've already, the 2 of their toughest games are knocked off. They've got the game against Duke, and then they go into their Sun Belt schedule. And Arkansas State and Troy are their 2 tough games there. It's not impossible to see them winning 10 games. It's not impossible to see them winning 11. And this is a team that was 0-12 4 years ago. This was a team that was 9-39 coming into the game last night. It's been an incredible turnaround down there, and good. That's great for Coach Cristobal. It's probably not good for FIU because Coach Cristobal is going to be on a lot of lists.
He's going to get
somebody's going to be coming after that guy. But he has done a good job and a quick turnaround with that program.
Ironically enough, Carson, who did not join us, said UCF would go undefeated, go to a BCS game.
Blaming you, Carson. All your fault.
It is his fault. Isn't it his fault, Buckman? Can we blame him on the loss?
After watching the game last night with a good friend, Arthur Volpe,
good man.
As you know,
good
contributor to the show
Absolutely.
Sometimes, we blamed Carson Engel. We blamed him.
So it's unanimous.
We completely blame.
Should he be banned from going to any more games?
He should have been banned a long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But no, definitely his fault.
We're just throwing him under the bus.
But I mean, they've got it. It's a short week. That's the problem. Going to BYU, it's a short week, but there's some issues to fix, and maybe this is a nice, smack in the face. Let's get it going. But that was just not pleasant. That was worse. Some people, I talked to some people that said, this was worse than losing 64-12 to USF. I don't know if I'm going to go that far.
No.
But this was not fun.
No, it wasn't. So we'll see how they regroup against BYU on Friday night and hope the offensive line shows up. All right. We're going to take a break, our last break of the show, because we got so much still to get to. We got the Rays and the Red Sox. Big game today. Huge. Must win for the Rays. NFL Week 2, and then also, when we come back, boxing, controversy. Say it ain't so.
Shocking.
We'll have our boxing analyst Insider break it down for us. Next here on ESPN1080.com Insider Show on ESPN 1080, The Team.
Time for Walmart's Play of the Game. Today, young David Simpkins' field goal claimed victory for his Pee Wee team. But in a post-game surprise, Mom Shelly scored big with football snacks. The crowd went wild, and Shelly basked in her savings. She'd gone to Walmart, where 90-count Totino's pizza rolls are just $6.98, and 9.7-ounce popcorn Indiana kettle corn is only $2.50. Low prices every day, backed by Walmart's ad match guarantee. Save money, live better. Walmart. Our stores will match the price of any local competitor's printed ad for an identical product. Not applicable to Walmart.com. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Sports Radio AM 1080 WHOO Orlando's ESPN. Get ready for football. ESPN 1080 The Team is your home for the NFL. Catch the play-by-play right here.
Route. He goes Smith, end zone, left side, makes the grab, and it's a touchdown! The left corner of the end zone, Steve Smith from Cameron, Jarrell Newton.
It's football, and it's here. Straight from the gridiron to your radio. We've got the NFL here. Orlando's ESPN 1080, The Team.
The Chesapeake Life Insurance Company, Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee, and the Mega Life and Health Insurance Company bring you this message. If you need a flexible and reliable health insurance plan, you need to call the Health Markets family of insurance companies. They specialize in helping the self-employed and individuals that need health insurance. If you think you're paying too much for your current health insurance plan, or your current policy doesn't give you the flexibility you need, call now. They'll help you personalize a health insurance plan that fits your life, one that meets your needs and your budget. Call now for your free health insurance quote and complete details. 800-816-3951. 800-816-3951. 800-816-3951. Administrative offices in North Richland Hills, Texas. Exclusions and limitations apply. Subject to state availability. Association group plans where available require membership.
I want to know why I'm fine 1 minute and the next my body aches so bad I can't move.
I want to know why my hair is falling out. I'm only 17.
I'm tired all the time. Now, this rash. I just want to know what's going on.
When you don't have the right answers, it may be time to ask your doctor the right question. Could I have lupus? For answers, for support, for hope, visit couldihavelupus.gov or call 1-800-994-9662. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office on Women's Health and the Ad Council.
ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080 The Team. Eric Lopez back alongside Jason Collete, our Rays and MLB Insider. We'll get Rays RedSox thoughts from Jason in a few minutes. As well as the Mayweather-Ortiz fight. A little controversy there, fourth round. Jason right now is trying to figure out his fantasy football lineup. Chris Johnson, Reggie Bush, right? Is that what we're debating?
Yeah, I'm going to go Chris Johnson. You can't sit your best guy. I know it's against Baltimore, who absolutely destroyed Pittsburgh last week, but I still got to go with the guy. I've got him. He's my big money guy. I got to play him.
So, quick thought on the NFL here, because we got a lot still. Let's start with the Dolphins at Houston after losing to New England, getting thrown for over 500 yards. Quick thought on that game.
It's interesting. I mean, Houston obviously had an easy time against Indianapolis. Miami played pretty decently. It's going to see now Houston's going to be the clear favorite in AFC South with that, so we'll see where that goes. But this is a big game for Miami to make a statement, but Houston also wants to come out and get 2-0 because you know what the odds are when you're 2-0 to start the season.
The Buccaneers go to Minnesota. Trying to bounce back. Game you can hear here on ESPN 1080. Your thoughts on the Bucs?
I don't like that game. We said last week, the Lions were going to beat the Bucs. They did. Now you're traveling to Minnesota, who plays very well at home, very loud environment. Tough place for Bucs to play. Unfortunately, they're going to open the season 0-2.
Jaguars go to the Jets after a big win over the Titans. But they're banged up. Mercedes Lewis probably out. Luke McCown second start. No chance against the Jets?
No chance. I mean, with the Titans, it's a different story. With the Jets, you're traveling up there, the way they're playing, the way that defense could happen. I don't see this as a good matchup at all for the Jaguars.
So now Buckman gave me the sign, and I'm really going to regret this part. But all right, so UCF we mentioned earlier lost to FIU. Is that FIU's fight song, Buckman? Really?
It is. I mean, how else do we introduce this?
They don't get to play it a lot, so when they get to play it, they get to use it.
Now, for those that don't know, my entire family graduated from FIU, including my sister, who has decided to call in from Washington, D.C., and brag here. So my sister now is on the air. Go ahead, brag on the win.
Hey, little brother.
Hey, sis.
How does it feel that your big sister's alma mater just kicked the butt of your alma mater, mister?
It's not a good feeling. It's not a really fun feeling. You're not really making a lot of friends in Orlando right now on the air, but you have the right to win since you guys had more points than us. So congrats,
That's
big
right.
sis. Yeah, 17-10. You went at home there.
We did. So, we are awesome. And I tell you what, I predict that FIU is pretty soon, maybe in a year or two, because we're going to get more practice. We're going to kick the butt of your Seminoles.
Hey, come on now. Hey, listen. Let's worry about getting more people in the stands over at FIU there. You got 20,000 on campus there. It's a nice campus, though, but,
I know, but, it's about economy. Not everybody can go to football games out, but we are awesome, and they're going to get more fans. And, it's a great feeling. And you know what? Oh, he kicked your butt.
Next year, UCF comes down to Orlando to play UCF. You need to come down for that game, and we'll have a rematch, and hopefully UCF will have an offensive line by then. Jason, can you promise me we'll have an offensive line next year, UCF?
I'm going to check on my eligibility. I'm 6'4", 235, so I will see what I can do.
You know what? I'll be there, and I predict that once again we'll take UCF butt. But hey, you guys are doing a great job. Love your show. And you know what? UCF may have lost, but you, according to the kids, are like the greatest uncle in the universe.
Oh,
so,
well,
love
there you go. I love you too, sis. All right, thank you, sis.
Bye.
Reminds me of my sibling rivalry because, as you know, my brother is a big Red Sox fan. So
yes.
Man. So I get this all season long from my brother.
Yeah, my sister, my brother, all FIU grads. I have to deal with this all of last night. That was not pretty. So if anybody in Orlando is feeling this loss harder than me, good luck, because it's unless you got family from FIU, you don't.
I think Jarod and Carson might be partying together.
Are they? Why?
I can't get a hold of him either.
Oh, well, let's keep talking baseball then, baby.
That's a good segue. Since you talk simply rivalry, then it's your turn today. Rays and the Red Sox. Final game of a 4-game series today. David Price go up against Tim Wakefield. The Rays have won 2 of the first 3. Your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, what's disappointing here is the Rays are 10-6 against Boston this year, so they've won the season series. And the good news here is if they force a one-game playoff, that one-game playoff has to happen in Tropicana Field now because the Rays win the season series. It was disappointing for the Rays to lose on Friday night with James Shields in the mound, especially with Mike Aviles hitting a hanging changeup. And the way that game was played, Hunter Wendelstedt remains to be one of the worst umpires in baseball. His strike zone is as wide as his butt. So this was that was an unfortunate Friday night, but yesterday, terrific game, especially with Matt Moore. Matt Moore, who we've had on this show as one of our interviews, Matt Moore comes in and pitches 2 1/3 inning of awesome relief. I mean, went through David Ortiz, Adrian Gonzalez. I mean, very impressive job of relief. And Joel Peralta came in and closed it out because Farnsworth is still out with the elbow. Rays have to win today. I mean, Price went up against Alfredo Simon, of all people, earlier this week and took another tough no decision because the Rays offense couldn't hit. Against Wakefield, there are no excuses. They have pounded Wakefield into submission the last couple of years. They can run all day long against Wakefield once they get on base. They have to win this game. They lose, it's over.
Simple as that. Win, it's down to the last 2 weeks. You lose, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, if they win today, they're 2 back. They've got 7 against the Yankees, 7 against the Yankees. They've got the series against the Blue Jays. 8 against the Yankees and 3 against the Blue Jays. Boston's playing Baltimore. Baltimore's having fun time playing spoiler. They took 2 or 3 from Anaheim, 2 or 3 from the Yankees, 2 or 3 from the Rays. So the spoiling Showalters are back, just like they were last year. You have to hope that's the case. Red Sox keep losing. Yankees keep winning. There's, again, the theory, I brought it up last week. Yankees could rest their starters down the stretch, allow the Rays to get in because the Yankees were 1-8 against the Red Sox to open the season when the Red Sox were healthy. They're still only 4-11 against Boston this year. So if I'm the Yankees, do I want to bring Boston into the playoffs, who's beat me pretty much every game this year, or do I want to bring the Rays in, who I've had a much better time against?
Should be a tremendous scene. Wakefield and Price today, Sunday afternoon. Big game. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger yet. You got drama in baseball for sure. All right, Buckman, I'm still recovering from my sister just going low blow on me here and rubbing it in. Can you introduce our next guest? You got
Jarod Rudolph here.
Our boxing guy, we had a great preview of the great Mayweather-Ortiz fight. Many of you heard on ESPN1080.com and witnessed the fight last night. Jarod, let's get right into it. Of course, some interesting drama in boxing. Mayweather gets the knockout. Some people had a problem with the fact that he took the punch right away after they're touching gloves. Your thoughts on the fight?
Well, I think that you have to look at it in two ways. You look at it to what happened in the fight, and then you look at the ending. Now, Floyd dominated the fight. He was dominating Ortiz. He was catching him with straight right hands. Ortiz could not catch him. He had a couple of good moments in the fight, but for the most part, Floyd controlled it. Is that music still playing in the background?
He is. Buckman loves that HBO. What is that? HBO count music you're playing, Buckman?
Yeah, you know, little
He's
music
loving
to
that
go on
music,
with boxing.
Well, Floyd controlled the fight. You know, Ortiz looked overmatched. He was strong. He was 164 pounds going into the fight, but he couldn't use the power. He couldn't use his weight advantage and produce anything. Couldn't set up punches. Like I said, he had some moments. Now, the headbutt was one of the dirtiest things I've ever seen in boxing. It was blatant. It didn't make any sense. It actually came at a moment when he put together a good series of punches and actually caught Floyd, so it didn't make any sense. But how many times are you going to hug the guy? How many times are you going to apologize? How many times are you going to, you know, continue to...
Well, here's no one has brought this up, Jarod. He tried to kiss him on the cheek.
Well, no, I think that's neither here nor there. I think that what happens is he gets the point taken away.
Right.
And when he first did it, you know, and Cortez calls break, he goes over to Floyd, he apologizes once. Then Cortez brings him over, he takes the point. He goes back over to Floyd, gives Floyd a hug, kisses him on the cheek, hugs him, says he's sorry to Cortez again. Then Cortez says time in, he goes over to Floyd again, hugs Floyd, Floyd hugs him, he backs up with his hands down, and Floyd hits him. It's protect yourself at all times. This is not a street fight. This is not professional wrestling. When the referee says time in, it's time to fight. You never put your hands down. And for him to look to anybody else for any assistance, that's on Ortiz. But I got to tell you this. Looking at the fight, and I've watched it a couple of times this morning to go back, I think Ortiz quit. I think he was very frustrated.
You think he was looking for an out, what don't you?
Yeah, I think he was very frustrated with the fact that he just couldn't get to Floyd.
Was the stage too big for him? Was the stage too big for him?
I'm not sure whether the stage is too big for him. I think Floyd was just too good for him. And it's different out there, and I told you guys this on Friday night. You can look at a guy and say, oh, I can land this punch, I can beat this guy, but then when you get in there with him, it's different. And getting hit by straight right hand after straight right hand after straight right hand does something to a man, because he was hurt a couple of times in the fight, and he knew that he had to do something to change the tide. And it just was not happening for him. So I think he was looking for it now. Now, again, I can't confirm that. It's just a thought. But the punches that Floyd hit him with, though they were clean, I mean, to be knocked out like that from the straight, and he had hit with the same straight right hand several times within the fight. I mean, Floyd landed 49% of his power punches last night. It just stinks to me as someone that was looking for it. Now he wasn't quite ready, and this puts him in a position where he lost by knockout, but people will still be on the side. He'll get another big fight, possibly a rematch with Floyd, and this will be something that's swept under the rug. I mean,
do you think is that what's going to happen next? Do you think it's a rematch? What does that do for Floyd? Why?
No, I don't think Floyd fights Ortiz next. I think Floyd may fight Ortiz again sometime down the line, but I think the next fight for Floyd is Manny Pacquiao. And, you know, Pacquiao has to handle his side of it now. Floyd's going to make about $40 million from what happened last night. You know, with the interest that people have from his exchange with Larry Merchant, it could be even more. And, you know, you go from there. As long as Pacquiao handles Juan Manuel Marquez, which I don't think he will do, then you get those guys in there probably around April or March, and Floyd can beat him and shut everybody up.
Last question before I let you go. Let's talk about that Larry Merchant incident, which is hilarious stuff. Buckman, you got thoughts on that?
No. I got it. Before you let him go, I got a question.
All right, go ahead.
Well, this is Larry Merchant has always been anti-Floyd Mayweather. Okay, I mean, it's blatant, it's clear. He's always been anti-Floyd. It's not the first time that Floyd has told him he doesn't know anything about boxing.
But could Floyd have handled that better, or should he be above that?
I mean, of course you can handle it. Okay. I mean, that again, that goes without saying. You can always handle things better, but you have to. Again, I understand people don't like Floyd, and I don't like everything that Floyd does out of the ring, but I have no problem with what he did yesterday, because it's like you listen to the way he interviews Floyd, the guy that won the fight, and the way he interviews Ortiz. All this stuff happened because Ortiz fouled Floyd. Okay, he gives Ortiz all these different outs and all these different excuses as to why he threw a dirty headbutt. But with Floyd is, well, what do you think? This guy that wasn't ready, and what now? And then he even had the audacity to say the reason that Floyd did that is because he knows the next question was going to be about Manny Pacquiao. Floyd has never dodged or ducked any opponent. He's never dodged or ducked any questions about any opponent. He brings up Pacquiao more than anybody else. So why would he be afraid to talk about Manny Pacquiao with Larry Merchant? Larry Merchant's an idiot. And, it just gets to a point where if Floyd's all these things that people say, somebody's got to be professional, but you keep poking and prodding at the guy and expect him not to have a response, that's unrealistic.
Buckman, you got the last question for Jarod?
Jarod, I hear you're a buddy of Carson Engel. Do you have any idea where in the world he is right now?
South Florida, probably crying because UCF lost.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Jarod, thanks for backing me up.
I can't believe we lost. We didn't run no ball well. I can't believe it.
Thank you for our opening audio drop next week when he's back in studio.
Jarod, man, great stuff, Jarod. We got great positive feedback on the preview for the Mayweather fight. We're going to do it again for the Hopkins fight next month. Thank you for joining us, and great stuff, man.
Anytime, guys.
Thanks, man.
How are we supposed to respond from that?
That was awesome.
Well, gentlemen, since that Mr. Engel is missing, we'd like to inform everybody, if you have any whereabouts or where Mr. Engel is, please call the hotline at 1-800-FIND-CARSON. That's 1-800-FIND-CARSON. You will be rewarded, and, we're still working on the reward, so 1-800-FIND-CARSON. Thank you.
How much time we got left, Buckman?
You're about the 3-minute mark.
Beautiful.
That is
gives Collette just enough time to continue about baseball, I think, right? NFL, what direction?
Do you want to brag about the Redskins beating the Giants since Buckman's a Giant fan?
How can I brag? Because last week I was asking him to be nice and take mercy, and then they go out and smack it. Right. I mean, honestly, I didn't. Once you get to the game time, and then Justin Tuck's not playing, and the defensive backfield's depleted, and then the Giants have the Stones, and they release Joe Burnett. I mean, what the heck are they doing there? You don't release Joe Burnett. That's why you lost. You let Joe Burnett go. That's why the Redskins beat him.
You know why we lost? Because, as I predicted, the great Sexy Rexy.
Sexy Rexy throws for 300 yards. You're going to lose every time. Right. I'm sorry. You can't let Sexy Rexy do it.
Prediction time. Let's move. Prediction time. Rays RedSox. Jason, who wins?
Rays win today. David Price probably gives up a home run to Darnell McDonald, the guy that for some reason he can never get out. But outside of that, I think the Rays will win today.
Buckman?
I'll go Rays. I just love to see the
Red Sox
lose.
Yeah.
So I'll go Rays.
Quick. What do you got, producer? What do you got, Mr. People
I got
running
the
back?
Rays. David Price, 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run.
All right.
Wow, muted again for the second week in a row. How about that? So we got the Jaguars, Dolphins. You got the Jaguars, Dolphins, Bucks all losing.
I do. Again, just like I did last week.
I got the Bucks winning and agree with you on the other two, unfortunately. And then, of course, Miami wins next week. FSU beats Clemson.
Yes.
We all agree with that. Well, that
leaves us with our Knights against the BYU Cougars.
Do we bounce back?
Long travel. They won't look. I'm not ready to say they're going to win, but they're not going to look as ugly as they did yesterday.
Is BYU going to look as ugly as they did against Utah? Two teams very different all of a sudden Friday.
I don't think you can look any uglier than BYU looked against Utah in the Holy War.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to Brandon Hellwig's pictures from out in BYU.
Yes, please
That's what
check.
I'm looking forward to.
Ooh, there you go, Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Utah. I thought you were going to say you're looking forward to the photos from the campus at FIU.
No, I don't really care about that.
No.
So that'll do it. With that note, what a show we had here, folks. Reminder, just check out all the great content on ESPN1080.com. We'll preview the BYU game on the website this week. Myself and Jason will probably have stuff written down on the site. We'll also have plenty of shows. Tuck and O'Neill recap it. The Beat of Sports will recap it. I will be on Tuck and O'Neill Thursday and Friday, filling in for Jerry, who's going to beautiful Provo, Utah. So maybe you can join us, Jason, Thursday, Friday, maybe?
Possibly Friday. I've been on Tracy Dent's show the last 2 Fridays.
Tracy Dent's show, thanks for the plug. 1 to 3.
Come back on Tracy's show. Usually the last segment there to talk some baseball.
Hopefully the Rays and the Reds will have something. You have something to talk about Rays-wise. There will be tremendous tonight. It will be a big factor. So we'd like to thank Andrew Melnick, who'll be back in studio next week, calling from Tallahassee. Carlos Pineda, Southern Pigskin. Check out his work on that site. I'm not going to thank my sister for calling in, but I will thank Jarod Rudolph for calling. Great stuff on the boxing. Buckman, great job producing. People's Running Back, great job with the content. This show will be updated and uploaded on the archives on YouTube. Check that out. We hope you enjoy Week 2 of the NFL. For Jason and the rest of the gang, I'm Eric Lopez. You've been listening to ESPN1080.com Insider Show on ESPN 1080 The Team.